coming in a cutscene, so you can mine the doorway, and then when they walk in, they explode in the cutscene and die. And the game just takes over from there as if she's dead, which is fantastic. And we've really moved to a more cinematic and scripted type of gaming in the last 10 years, I think. And so you don't really see that sort of thing anymore. Human Revolution captures that pretty well, but not perfectly. Most obstacles can be solved in a number of ways. So if there's a door that's locked and you actually don't have enough hacking skill to get through it, you can just find some explosives and blow it down, which is something that a lot of games just don't let you do. You need the red key, for example. And there are lots of obstacles you can actually talk your way through. A big part of the game is social interaction, and you actually have these upgrades you can give yourself that let you read people and then sprout pheromones at them to influence the way they behave. And that's really cool because it gives these dialogue options where you have to read people, measure their response, and then try and pick an appropriate way to convince them to do what you want. And a lot of games don't give you that non-violent option, so that's really cool. The other great thing about it is it's quite sandboxy, in the sense you can actually build like a fort out of cardboard boxes if you want to hide from a camera, which looks really stupid, but it's really great that you have this option. So, you know, if you're watching a security camera, for example, when it pans back, it'd suddenly be a big row of cardboard boxes in front of a computer panel, and you're hiding behind there hacking the computer, and the guard just watching you. It's like, can't see anything, just some boxes, nothing to worry about. And that's great. It's also kind of stupid, but it's great because it gives you that flexibility, and I don't think there's really a way to code guards to know when something's dumb and when it isn't. So, you know, it's great to have that functionality. And, you know, you can basically move lots of things in the world. You can move rubbish bins and throw them at people. You can drag bodies into vents, that sort of thing. I once corrupted my game save file by dragging an old man's body across the entirety of Detroit because I wanted him to be there when I avenged his death. And so, yeah, I lost 30 hours of gameplay. And, that put me off for a while. Yeah, Your Honour. So yeah, it's that flexibility that's really good, and it's something that a lot of games these days don't really offer. And one of the best parts about the flexibility is it's presented really naturally. So for example, later in the game, you have to get into a guy's office, but he's actually speaking at a public convention centre, and so you can just knowing that he's speaking, you can sneak into his office. Or you can just go on into this convention and confront him in front of everyone else. And he doesn't say to you, these are your two options, do A or B. You just do them, and then it just flows on from there. And it's really good to have that freedom. And I didn't even realise I was being offered these options. I just thought of what I would feel like doing at the time, or what I'd put the most points into. And so yeah, it's really cool to have that. Overall, it's a really smart, ambitious game. And it's got a nice dark and gritty story that really lives up to the spirit of the original. But perhaps fails a little mechanically as a result. Bad points. Mechanically, it's really railroady. If you play Deus Ex, which I recommend you do, and it's super on sale now because it's been out for a year, be a stealth hacker. If you do anything else, you're essentially gimping yourself. You can go through the game just fine, but you miss out on basically all the cool stuff. If you don't read everyone's emails and hack all the controls, you basically miss out on all the cool things. But the upside of that is that you'll be good for the boss fights. Now, everyone already knows about the boss fights if you know anything about the game, because they're the most criticised part of it. In fact, IDOS actually apologised for them after they released the game, because everyone hated them so much. And the reason they hate them is because they're actually unplayable if you're a stealth character. So you've got the game which encourages you really strongly to be a stealth hacker. And then when you get into the boss fights, you can't do anything stealthy, and the boss just punches you repeatedly in the face until you die. And so it's just really stupid. And they realised that when it came out, everyone was like, this is really dumb. And they were like, okay, sure, okay, it's so dumb. And they apologised, which is really nice. The other main problem with Deus Ex is that it offers you all these choices. So it says, you know, you can be a real killer, you can be a bad guy, you know, it's a very morally grey sort of game. But the problem is that if you actually are an asshole, and I tried to be one particular playthrough, wasn't very hard, you can kill everyone in the game. There's no invulnerable civilians or anything like that. If you can pull a gun out, then you can start shooting, you can kill everyone. So I actually spent about 45 minutes killing everyone in Detroit, again, in the video game, Nick. The game doesn't, like, everyone dies, they scream and run, you know, eventually hunt them down, and you fight off the police, and it's great. It's a really realistic reaction. But then you walk back in your office building, and the secretary's like, hey, what's going on? And you're like, I just killed 200 people. And I'm like, cool, yeah, go to your desk, go to the email for you. Cool. And your boss is like, yeah, I need to see you in the office. And you're like, oh shit, he's got me. He's like, yeah, I got a mission for you. Like, it just doesn't care. And you can keep doing this in every level in the game, and as soon as you get to a cutscene, the game just assumes you're like a cool guy who's never murdered civilians in his life. So once you push the game far enough, you realise how hollow it actually is. Which is fine, because at least it gives you that choice, it gives you a reaction. A lot of people just don't even let you murder civilians, which is just lame. Speaking of cutscenes, they're shit. They're a real problem with the game because they actually take your character in ways, they make your character behave in ways that is actually really stupid. There's a really particular one at the top of Taiwan Medical, but without spoiling it for you, you're trying to find this woman, and then when you eventually find her, she's like, well, maybe I'm not a bad guy, and you're like, maybe you're not, and then she just locks you in a room. You're like, oh. And you don't just punch her in the face and say, don't press that button or anything like that. You just, it's really dumb. You behave in a way that isn't consistent with your character at all, and you just want to put your head through your desk to get away from it. What else? The ending. I won't spoil it for you, but it's essentially one of those games where you push a button and pick a particular ending. I don't know who invented the button machine that ends video games, but I really wish developers would stop doing it. It's just super lazy. Especially this one because you get a control panel with like 4 buttons, and so they all correspond to an ending. But if you haven't talked to a particular person to activate the ending, the magic button on your magic ending console isn't working. And this is a game which, up until that point has been really naturally presenting lots of options and making them invisible to you. And then you get to the end, it's like, choose your ending at the ending machine. And you're like, okay, cool. And that's sort of dumb. Enemy AI is problematic. It sort of switches between head trauma patient level of stupid and like razor sharp killing machine. So if your guards are just suspicious, like they're patrolling the hallways or whatever, they're just really dopey. And you can actually like hurl a vending machine past them in the corridor, and they're like, and they'll literally stop and go, nothing suspicious here. And they're like, yeah. I don't know what happens in the office, but apparently that's normal. But yeah, as soon as they see you, they just become this razor sharp SWAT team that just murders you with pinpoint accuracy. And so if you can just keep them in this dopey state, then they're incredibly easy to manipulate, and the game is actually, even on the hardest difficulty, a real cakewalk, which is, again, quite annoying. The final problem is with the DLC, again, is also shit. There's a point in the game where you go into a pod and you wake up 3 days later, and they don't tell you what happens during those 3 days. And so when the game first came out, everyone was like, oh, okay, they're going to put DLC there. And they did, and no one was really surprised by this. But the DLC, even if you have it when you play the game, doesn't actually automatically activate. You have to go back and launch it separately. So by the time you finish the game, you're like, I don't really want to do it, because you know nothing's happened during those 3 days. Because you get there and you're like, well, that was a good sleep or whatever. Nothing happens, and then they're like, go back and see what happened. And you're like, but I know nothing happened. So that's a bit annoying, but it's like $1 now, so everybody really cares, I guess. That's my very thorough critique of Deus Ex. Thank you very much. What happens now?
So, well, I was just going to say, a quick show of hands. How many people have actually played Human Revolution?
Excellent.
Does anyone have any feedback of their own to offer to the group? I forgot to mention at the beginning, I wanted this as more of a discussion panel, so please feel free to jump in. Brendan.
With that cutscene thing, there's an enormous disconnect between the intelligence of the player and the intelligence of the character.
Absolutely.
Because if you're a stealth hacker, it's really, really obvious that censored happens. It's really obvious that censored is what is going on. But the character is like, I have no idea what's going on. But it's quite clear that he's read all the stuff and he should know what's going on. And it's really illusion breaking. And very frustrating.
Yeah, and
Hello? Yes. Also, the models in the cutscene are like gorgeous and really well rendered, and in the game you're like a 4-polygon monstrosity. But yeah, in the cutscene it's just this beautifully rendered CG. It was actually pretty crap by today's standards, but it's because it's built for consoles and so on. But yes, it's really jarring when you see this beautiful character who is potentially you walking through the room. Yep, I agree completely though. You act like a moron in the cutscenes, and you're just like. And that's, I think, the prime difference, because there are no cutscenes in the original Deus Ex. It's all in-engine cinematics, so you can do things like that. Whereas in this one, it just takes that control away from your key moments, and I think that's what makes it just not quite as good.
So I've got something. I was clicking through screenshots after screenshots for this, found 10, and this is probably the only one which isn't gold and black. We scroll through all the others, gold and black, gold and black, gold and black, gold and black. Oh, sorry, there's a bit of red there as well. And that's promotional shop, by the way, that's not in-game, so the marketing guys got away with not using gold and black.
You just said that in-game.
Oh, my apologies, they did slip it in.
Yeah, it's a really strong art thing. And the art design direction is really good, but it is really consistently gold and black. But there are a lot of, like Hengsha, for example, when you go to Singapore, is quite green and grey. It's just like Sarif Industries is basically the company you work for, and it looks like that. There's only 2 colours. So I don't know how anyone works there. But yes, there's a very strong art direction. And it's good, but also it makes the screenshots look a bit boring. But all the screenshots are mostly taken from the first part of the game, because they deliberately avoided releasing later screenshots because people could basically guess what the storyline was going to be.
Yeah. We've probably got time for one more question or comment.
Have you ever back to play the first or Invisible War after playing Human Revolution?
No, I'm into it because the HD texture pack is the thing I've downloaded but never used. But yeah, I haven't been back to play since then. I really should, because I sat through the credits and got the extra thing at the end, and I was like, oh. Yeah. True story. Yeah.
Cool. Thanks, Tim. We're now going to move on to Liza, who wants to chat to us about Alpha Centauri.
Okay,
What do you love and hate about this, Liza? What do you love and hate about Alpha Centauri?
Well, there's not much I hated about Alpha Centauri. I didn't really hate anything at all, but one thing did really bug me. I think most people here, hopefully, would probably at least know what Alpha Centauri is. Sid Meier's Alpha Centauri. It's part of the Civilization series, but it's set in the, I think it's the not too distant future. I can't remember the year exactly.
2020s?
Something like that, 2027 or something. But basically, Earth has gone to crap, and there's poverty and disease and pollution and all that stuff is killing the planet. And they get the 7 most powerful world leaders and send them off on this ship called Unity to another planet, which they actually refer to as planet. In the Alpha Centauri, it's not a galaxy. It's a galaxy, is it? It's a star. Yeah, but isn't it a set of 3 stars? Yes, that. So they go there onto this planet with the purpose of basically working together to recreate humanity and populate the world and terraform it and make it habitable again. But a reactor malfunctions on the way, and there's panic on the ship, and the people that are on there break up into 7 factions based on ideologies, not nationality. And then you end up crash landing on this planet as one of these 7 factions that you choose. And the goal of the game is basically to progress through and grow your own faction while interacting with the other factions and winning in different ways. There's different win conditions, which I think is really awesome. So you can kill everyone and then you win. I think if you can manage to have everyone be friends, you can win, and you can modify all the rules and things like that before you start the game. So this critique is coming from someone who has never played another turn-based strategy game before, ever. I think I played Alpha Centauri when I was about 10 years ago, so I was about 13 or 14. And I haven't played any of the Civilization games, and I still haven't, which is horrible. I know, I deserve that. But one of the critiques that people have of Alpha Centauri, and it's a very well-rated game, it was very critically acclaimed, so it's people accept that this is a really good game. But one of the problems that some people had with it is that they thought it was just another version of Civ 2, and it's exactly the same, just set in a different place with different graphics and things like that. And that might be true, but because I haven't played Civ 2, I got more of an isolated experience with the game. So to me, this was like totally new and awesome, and I didn't have anything else to compare it to. And at the surface, I really, really liked one of my favorite things or ideas about the game was the diplomacy aspect of it. And knowing that I don't have to just go out and try and crush everyone one by one and win that way and just get really, really powerful and build a whole bunch of units. But the idea is that you ally with other factions and you work with them to kill your enemies, you trade technologies and things like that, you communicate with them, and then you kind of, if you still want to go the conquest route, you kind of pick factions off one by one. And if you go to war with everyone at once, you're likely, at least in some cases, are going to have a much more difficult time. So you have to work with the other factions. And this was, I loved this idea, but the problem became that after a few sessions of playing the game, you noticed that the whole communication aspect with the other factions was really, really crap and boring. Like the way it works when you start out is you crash land on the planet, you build your base, you start your first base, and you start exploring around the land, and you run into another faction at some stage. A window pops up saying, oh, so-and-so is trying to contact you, Sister Miriam of the Believers or something wants to talk to you. And you talk to her, and most of the time it's one of 5 things that they say. I don't know exactly how many different options there are, but either they're telling you that, demanding a technology from you, asking you to trade a technology, asking you to be allies, asking you to attack someone with them, demanding that you get off their land or something. But it's a very defined set of things that you always hear whenever somebody initiates contact. And there are just enough options for that to not really bother you at first, but after a few sessions, it kind of gets tedious to even see that little window pop up. It's like, I don't want to talk to these people, I know what they're going to say, it's going to be useless. So you start kind of just clicking no and declining the communication request. Sometimes you get like storms or something on the planet that cut off communication lines for several years, and I was actually looking forward to those storms because it means I wouldn't have to talk to anybody. So that kind of thing, and it's not only, I think the communication aspect of the AI was what bothered me the most, but also it was some decisions they made were just really, really dumb. Like they would contact you telling you they were going to pummel you into the ground when you were obviously much more powerful than them. And that became really, really annoying and tedious. So even though the rest of the game I have no complaints about, I mean, some people said the graphics were average, which I guess was true. I played it 10 years ago, so I think for the time, for me, the graphics were actually quite good. And I still play the game today, and I don't have complaints about the artwork or anything like that. So there are a lot of really, really good things about it. Like the general idea and the concept. I love the story. I love that you can create and customize your own units and deploy them and explore and stuff like that and choose different strategies for your faction. You get like drones in your bases that you have to take care of and stuff like that. Like it's a massive game, and I think overall it's really well balanced. But the AI is the one thing that really isn't up to standard to the rest of the game, and that kind of ruined the experience for me just a little bit. So that's me.
Cool. We're going to have to go quickly, just because we're running a bit short on time. Just quickly, hands, how many people played Alpha Centauri? Not as many as Human Revolution, but it is older, so that's fair enough. And maybe got time for 1 or 2 quick comments from anyone, even from the panel. Let's jump in. No? Yeah, sure.
I was going to say that, for what it's worth, the communication did not improve in Civ 5. The AI is still dumb. You still end out with characters that just don't communicate well. It's still basically just a matter of, I'm going to pummel you, or you are awesome, and please give us stuff.
Yeah, you'd think that by that time they'd be able to kind of make some improvements based on the feedback from the earlier games.
You'd think so.
The systems that were introduced now in Centauri are actually built on for the rest of the Civ games. So the difference between Civ 1 and 2 and then this, and then 3 up to 5 was built on the systems that sort of came into that, and they never really got past the conditions of, do I like you? Yes, no. Do you have something I need? Yes, no. And then we just get to the end of that flag. I will kill you.
That's unfortunate.
It did improve the expansion that released in Civ 5 recently, but even then it's still not great.
Yeah. This isn't encouraging me to play Civ 5.
It is a really good game, it's just that the AI communication.
Yeah. I mean, everything else about the game was awesome. So if Civ 5 is just as awesome in every other aspect, then...
Well, the tech tree looks similar. Last one, Brendan.
I hear a lot of hate for like the civilization communication mediums, but it serves the purpose of the game. That is to allow you to trade with partners, to allow partners to threaten you. You know, open-ended question here. What else does it need to do?
It's not especially reactive sometimes. The way they built it was a chart of moods and attitudes towards certain conditions, which is still in play now. And for instance, Gandhi has this really interesting habit from Civ 2 onwards of being really predisposed towards declaring war. But yeah, I mean, you're right. It's this weird thing where it does feel like conditions, but I think the problem is it doesn't go beyond reactive. It's just sort of this thing where if you do one thing, there's a very good chance it's going to do this rather than being unexpected.
One of the things that happens in Civ 5 is that you'll get AI that come to you and say, we would like to have open borders. And the moment you do that, if they go into your open borders and see that you have a smaller army than them, they will basically declare war. It typically happens.
To be fair, I'd probably do that too if I was
To me, with Alpha Centauri, I don't know about Civ 5, but with Alpha Centauri, I think the point at which communicating with other people and seeing them trying to talk to me became a real hassle and a chore, that's when I kind of realized that this just isn't working for me. Because I don't think it should feel like a hassle.
It should be an auto-resolve, perhaps. The problem is that you are forced to do an action. That's bad. But I'm just not sure.
I mean, you just press no. You don't have to talk to them. You can just press no. But I want to talk to them. That's the thing for me.
Oh, where's...
It sounds like a lack of randomness to me. It sounds like everything's, you know what's going to happen.
It's not particularly transparent.
Yeah, so I mean, if someone came into your borders, there should be a chance they go, you've got a smaller army, do you want us to help you or defend you or something?
Exactly.
Where you also know that if they look at your small army and go, we're not coming in with a larger army, and we're going to squish your smaller army. There's no chance of something else.
Yeah, the variables are so wide that it's hard to account for those. But
Predictability is not a good game design aspect.
Yeah.
Cool. I think we might leave that there just because we're running short, guys. But feel free to talk about this more when we go out. But let's move on now to Martin, who's going to talk to us about Minecraft, everyone's favourite. I didn't actually get any pictures for this. I did promise Martin I was going to just play it in the background while he was talking. But I haven't updated the client for about a year now, so it's not going to happen. So, sorry, Martin, no pictures.
Okay, well, I'm pretty sure most of you would have played it anyway. Not all of you in the room. So I don't really need to go into the long spiel of what the game is. I'm pretty sure everyone knows what it is already. I'm probably going to annoy a few people as well by criticising it at some point. I've spotted a few Minecraft t-shirts around, so apologies in advance, but this is purely from a professional perspective. As a game coder, and a game designer, working on games for over 10 years now, there is a lot about Minecraft, which is fantastic. It is a great little game. I'm sure you've all read the reviews, you know how brilliant it is, you don't need me to go over all the points of what makes it a great game. But the single biggest thing for me is the fact that it's a triumph of gameplay over graphics. I think you'd all admit the graphics are pretty shoddy. They are 90s, 8-bit, nothing to look at. But hiding underneath that is a fantastic, cool game. It just goes to prove that you don't need to have flashy graphics to shift a lot of units. How many times, when you're playing a game, do you actually sit there and go, ooh, wow, what a fantastic lens flare, when you're being pummeled on by 100 angry mutants or whatever. So, fair play to them for just concentrating on the gameplay. So, I'll leave the positive points of that, as could be here all day, and move on to my negative points. Now, Ken did a fantastic talk earlier, and I only wish Notch had seen that before he started working on Minecraft. Because I would not want him working on any of my code, to be perfectly honest. Fantastic gameplay designer, but did it in Java? Not great. For some reason the garbage collection doesn't work. It's got an enormous footprint. There's obviously some shoddy code in there. Any of you who are coders out there, it's, take what Cameron said on board. I would just be repeating what he said, just, if your slides could be made available online or something, it would be fantastic for people to read that, because you need to go through, you need to use the tools, you need to use the profilers. At times you need to go back and rewrite stuff, because you're going down a road that, it just isn't going to work, your frame rate's crap, or whatever. Go back, rewrite it, make it better, make it small, make it fast, make it work. He's got away with a lot, I think, because he is an indie developer. It was open alpha and open beta, so he could get away with crashes, huge memory footprints, memory leakage. But really, that's poor. That is very, very poor. And I think I'll leave it at that. please. I'm getting daggers.
Well, thank you. I actually have a question for you. Given how much you're not a fan of Notch's code base, but that aside, could anyone else other than Notch have made Minecraft?
If you look at the clones, about 500 other people have made Minecraft.
Right. But I guess
there are other sandbox games out there.
Yeah.
It's Lego. It is
Dwarf Fortress?
Yeah, so
it's not a massively original concept. It's Lego with monsters.
So I guess the thing there is, how come, what made Minecraft stand out? Was it just luck? Was it timing? Was it community building? In your opinion, what do you think made Minecraft?
Wasn't the
combination of getting a lot of support from forums like Reddit and stuff, and getting out there really quickly and offering a game for a staggeringly cheap amount of money, and also ended up multiplayer. It was the first time multiplayer had really been offered and successful now off that. And I think that was the thing that drove a lot of people who enjoy that sort of constructive group effort or constructive briefing group effort to get.
I think it's a timing thing, wasn't it? It's just the right time for that kind of game to come through.
Well, there was, like, it's interesting you mentioned Lego because before Minecraft came out, there was a game called Blockland, which was a multiplayer online Lego game. So you had a free version and had a free version. I used to play that. And it was kind of this thing that you were really locked into, you know, if you don't have the right Lego kit, you can't do it. And so the thing in Minecraft was built on that. And then the community for Blockland is down again. But yeah, it's interesting it's Lego because I think what you said about that is interesting because the thing is that the aesthetic is really well unified though. Everything really works well within that. And I've seen people put on high-res texture packs and stuff like that. To me that completely breaks.
Do we know whether that was intentional then? Was it an art direction that Notch?
I think it was because he was working within his limitations of, he said he wasn't an artist, he said he wasn't good, but, and also he said it threw back towards the, you know, the nostalgic style of presentation of going, well, you know, it is Lego, it is, you know, the 8-bit platforms from when I was a kid and stuff like that. But yeah, I just find it interesting that people put on high-res texture packs to make it look realistic. That to me breaks the game more than having that 8-bit aesthetic.
We've got a whole bunch of questions. Paul's had his hand up for quite a while.
I think it's sounding a bit short to just call it Lego with monsters. I think there's a lot to it, and it's weird that now I have to start defending it. I think the thing that is really good about Minecraft is that it's a first-person game where you can properly modify your environment and adapt to it, and that's what's good about it. In other first-person games, you can't, and that's what the blocks layer do.
Well, I think it is very, very well balanced as well. The difficulty is good, the learning curve is good, the amount of freedom you have is good. So I think he did a very good job on the actual game design itself. You know, it's very hard to fault.
I was just going to say that for all the fact that the art in the game is terrible, it is basically a pixel editor, a voxel editor, if you like. And as you zoom out, the graphics improve because when you zoom super in on individual pixels, they look crap. When you look at a whole picture, it looks good. And I feel the huge part of this game is actually the community around it. If you're just playing the game, I don't think it would be particularly popular. It was only when you started being able to export the maps, so you could have that exported PNG of your whole map, which is like a city, or people being able to take like the screenshots from when you're like a bazillion blocks away, but you can see the whole castle that you've built, and you can put the pictures up on Reddit that everybody started jumping in there.
Don't get me wrong, I wasn't criticising the graphics.
No, I'm just saying.
As an older person myself, it's very retro for me. It takes me back.
But it's just like that ability to create content in it and then share that content is a huge part of the gameplay aspect.
Yeah, community is, if you can get that into a game, it is a massive boost.
So last comment up top.
I was just going to say that there are mods you can add, like Adventureling Oil in Minecraft. For me, that was awesome. And all the animals that are added, it's just your ability to create your own content and share that, and not setting up your own server and playing with other people and waging war against them. Awesome. You should do that.
Yeah, I can't screw with that. I love it. I think it's a great game, but I wouldn't want Notch working on my code.
I've heard that.
no one being that Martin afterwards. He actually does 26 and less in terms of market. Sure, please jump in.
Because they just recently updated the model, so now runs the server for itself rather than
I did spark it up last night quickly, just to remind myself of a few things. The frame rates do seem to improve, but the memory footprint is still shocking.
Cool, alrighty, well I think we might move on to our fourth and final. We are running late, so we're going to make this really quickly. Nick is going to talk to us about the very important, in my opinion, Dungeons and Dragons.
Thanks, Anthony. I guess my first question is for Anthony, which is what are these two doing on the grumpy old gamer panel? Because you're not old, you're simply grumpy, that's fine.
I changed my choice of game.
So first I just wanted to show of hands, I guess, how many people have actually played Dungeons and Dragons? Any edition. And keep your hand up if you played, I don't know, 3rd edition, 2nd edition, 1st edition. Alright. Okay, so I guess the story behind this is I started thinking about Dungeons and Dragons quite a lot a couple of years ago when I started playing the game again with friends, including some people here, Liza included. When I was young, I grew up and I played quite a bit of pen and paper role-playing games, including Dungeons and Dragons 2nd edition, Robotech had a role-playing game, and Vampire the Masquerade, which are all interesting in their own right. And it feels almost like there's less options, like there are a lot of big pen and paper role-playing games, and now it seems like there's a lot of focus on Dungeons and Dragons on the 4th edition. It's the one that's featured at big expos like PAX. Yeah. Anyhow, kind of like when you analyse what you're doing when you're a child, you realise, oh, I probably should have spent more time with that lady. Maybe she likes me. I kind of, by playing D&D more recently, you kind of be able to look at it in a different way and really analyse the mechanics and see what works and what doesn't, without being sort of all enamoured by it. So comparing it from when I originally played D&D 2nd edition back in the day, a lot of things have happened. There's been the whole D20 saga when the industry was not going so well, so they kind of tried to make the rule set more open so people can use the same rule set across different games. You had this explosive growth of trading card games like Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh, all that sort of maths-based games. And then obviously the implementation of Dungeons & Dragons rules into games like the Neverwinter Nights series, derivations of it and things like World of Warcraft. So basically, people now have a very good appreciation for what makes these things work. You've got rules, notation and mathematics, which speak towards the sort of how the game works underneath. Hopefully you've got some theatrics. You have lots of people who start playing D&D and then they don't play sort of a few months later because their DM and other people in the team aren't theatrical in what they're doing. And you also get a lot of investment. You've got this character sheet and it starts off, and you see this a lot in WoW. You're like, oh, I don't know if it's great, I guess I've got that new sword, now I'm a level 8, I've got 2000 XP, I guess I'll keep playing, right? And all those things really speak to the strengths of what D&D developed and what D&D, most games owe a debt of gratitude. But things have come a long way from then, and I guess this is kind of my criticism of D&D, is that it's become quite established, it's got a lot of inertia, and it's very difficult, because it speaks to this very niche audience, to make changes which could improve the game dramatically. So, for example, I was a little surprised getting back into D&D that the best way to create your character is through a spreadsheet, which has all these equations added into it, so that when you put in your base stats, it dynamically generates all your derived stats. They even say, why don't you download our application to make it a bit easier so that you can manage all of these numbers and all of this work. And a lot of other role-playing game systems have grossly simplified it. You'll find systems like GURPS, I think, they've got like 4, they've got a handful of stats, and the gameplay doesn't really suffer from not being able to differentiate between so many different discrete things. So I guess my major criticisms of D&D are essentially that there's way too much inertia. It can't really change because it's a massive brand, but it is interesting to play, to see where a lot of these mechanics came from. And it's also interesting to see it move at a sort of snail's pace towards gameplay elements which have been in so many other games for a long time. So, for example, in D&D 4th edition, they introduced cards. Rather than having everything in your character sheet, you can represent aspects of your character using cards. But at the moment, it's only an alternate representation. You could use one or the other. It'd be interesting to see if they ever get the agility to be able to say we're going to get rid of the character sheet completely, or it's going to be a small thing, and really make fundamental changes to it. But I'm not sure that's ever going to happen. So, that is my rant on D&D. Any questions?
So, that's an interesting point actually. Just a quick show of hands, maybe a thumbs up, thumbs down. For the role players in the room, getting rid of the idea of the character sheet. Thumbs up, thumbs down from people? Give us a reason. Why is the character sheet so important?
If you've got a really good brain. If you're just doing role playing, you don't need a character sheet. End of story, you don't, because it's all in your head. But if you actually have, you've got to always strike a fine balance between role playing and mechanics, and there are always people who favour one over the other. But if you have any mechanics at all, you need something to keep track of your stats, and you're going to need a character sheet, whether it's virtual or analog, to keep track of that. If it's just about role playing, you don't even need rules. It's just a bunch of people getting together. It's just fan fiction. But if it's role playing combined with mechanics, which you need, because mechanics are a way to sort out conflict, which drives story, then you're going to be captured of some kind. I don't think you can do it work. Unless you can keep track of that all in your head as well, and even then, you probably lose the line.
So, up the back first.
2 minutes left.
Oh, 2 minutes left. So you don't have comment.
I was just going to say there's a great podcast on Penny Arcade about D&D Youth and D&D, where they're specifically targeting getting rid of the 4-hour battle sessions. There's some changes that are planned there, but the podcast is quite funny because they're quite hostile towards the D&D designers, specifically about 4th edition being very time-consuming.
I think there's a lot of fundamental good in D&D. There's a lot of baggage which is very difficult to get rid of, or very difficult to change because it's been around for so long.
So, last 2 quick comments. First of all, Chris.
Do you think maybe the reason it's been around for so long is because of its conservative attitude towards change?
Is that tautology? I think it's been around for a long time because it's been around for a long time.
And I think that, you get a lot of games which come out, particularly in the late 80s, early 90s, where we're going to change everything, and they'll do that every year. And then you'll just be, well, I can't use my character this year because last year, it was important to have it balanced this way, and now it's not. So I think, yeah, to a degree, D&D's maintained some level of consistency, which has made it so that people can have those sort of decade-long campaigns.
I think you have to a certain extent to be something like that. We said the same problem. You can't eliminate your core games.
Very last point.
It's one of the more interesting things that's happened in the last few years with D&D is the old school revival, where people are going back to the basic set and stripping away a lot of the baggage that has put in there, and a lot of the general approach to the role-playing session where you railroading your players into a story arc and going to a more open sandbox. So there is that reaction. And of course there's a huge role-playing scene out there. It's got lots of interesting stuff happening.
Yeah, I definitely recommend people go and play some of these alternate rule sets and alternate games. I think that D&D, to its credit, has done a very good job of making design decisions based on design and not on how many figurines we're going to sell, how many cards we're going to sell.
So, or how many books we're going to sell, how many modules we're going to sell.
Okay, we are running late. Just one last question we have here.
Just one of my comments, because I came into it not having really played, and that's what answered Paul. And one of the things that I found from talking to people, they're very much locked into the D20 system now, that's their established base. But it doesn't matter how good you are in the world, you can be, been playing this game for a while, you can be really, really high level character, you can be really, really good at casting this particular spell, whatever it is. But if you're a roll one, your chance of succeeding at that spell is still the same amount. You can't change the probability of the dice.
Yeah, and other role-playing games have addressed that sort of thing. You've got critical miss and critical win. Other things which are missing from D&D are things like character flaws. So there are other role-playing systems where you can adopt a character flaw, like I'm socially awkward, in order to get a benefit like I spend all my time pretending I'm totally off. So those sort of things make other games a lot more rounded. And I think that D&D would benefit from getting more of those aspects in, but it's a very long, slow path, so they don't alienate their current players.
I think with D&D, they can kind of discourage, even though it's the more game to get kind of built around their flaws, especially Centauri.
Yeah, it's kind of left up to the players.
Yeah, I mean, people still do that. People want to have good stories, so ideally you would have something perfect.
Cool. All right. Well, I think that's everything for today. Thank you very much, guys. Unfortunately, we've gone well over time, so we're actually going to kick everyone out now. But thank you very much for today's showcase. I'm not very well equipped to be making a thank you speech right now, but we appreciate everyone's attendance and everyone's time and energy.
Very quickly, can I remind everyone who's part of the showcase to give their voting forms to Min? And can I also quickly thank Chris McCormick, who people will know as the originator and moderator of the Pygmy mailing list and one of our, itinerant, is that anyhow, he's an awesome game developer. He set things up. Things wouldn't be as they are now without his support. So thanks very much for all of your years of service, Chris. See you at our end of year party.
Yeah.